1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people here to hear Elijah speak to us today.
A while back, I heard a story about our current president, Barack Obama, giving an address to a group of middle school-aged children. Now, as Obama walked up to the podium, he started snapping his fingers. And silence fell over the audience. And after a while, Obama said, "Every time I snap my fingers, somewhere around the world, a child like you dies from a gunshot." Well, the audience was shocked into silence until a young voice piped up from the back of the auditorium and said, "Well, someone quick make him stop snapping his fingers." Well, if only the solution were that simple. I don't know whether or not this story is true, but I do know that many such speeches are given around the United States annually to try to promote gun control laws. Even though the problem of gun violence against children is a serious problem that needs to be addressed, simply making guns illegal or limiting their use is not going to solve the problem. Tonight, we're going to look at the extent of the problem of gun violence against children, as well as two gun control-based solutions that do not promise to provide the answer to the problem. We'll finish up by looking at my solution, which targets the fundamental principles of aggression and carelessness in people that are the underlying causes of this loss of life. First, let's look at the extent of the problem. Latest data from the latest data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that in 2006, 3,184 children and teens died from gunfire in the United States. Of these, 6% were accidents, 24% were suicides, and 70% were homicides. Now this is obviously a very unacceptable number. Gunfire rates the death among children today. So now that we know that the problem is indeed a real problem in our culture, let's look at some of the proposed solutions. Solution 1 is total gun control. Now this would make it illegal for any U.S. citizen to own any type of firearm. This is actually against the United States Constitution. The Second Amendment says, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Now, even though this law would clearly go against the Second Amendment, many people say that because the pros would outweigh the cons, that the law would in fact be justifiable. Unfortunately, there are three reasons why this law would not be effective. The first reason is that guns are actually not the cause of violence. Now, a friend of mine likes to say it this way: guns don't cause violence, and pencils don't cause misspelled words. People cause violence, and people cause misspelled words. Pencils and guns are merely the objects we use to accomplish what we're already going to do. Now, even if we could eliminate all the guns from the equation, people are still going to find ways to kill each other and hurt each other. It's just our sinful nature. Now, a second reason why this solution would not work is because criminals are still going to find ways to get guns. We see this throughout history in times like the Prohibition, in which alcohol was made illegal and casual users of alcohol simply stopped using alcohol, and drunks, who were the real problem, kept on using alcohol regardless of it being illegal. A third reason why this solution will not work is that guns can actually be used to prevent some crime. Now obviously, guns are used in causing crime more than they're used in preventing crime, but they're still a major crime deterrent. On April 1st, 1999, Sterling Burnett from the National Center for Policy Analysis said, "Studies have shown that criminals fear citizens far more than the police. Their fear is reasonable, since nearly 3,000 criminals are lawfully killed each year by armed civilians, more than 3 times the number killed by police." He goes on to say, "In addition, more than 15 studies have shown that citizens use guns to defend themselves between 800,000 and 3.6 million times annually." So if we're not going to make guns completely illegal to use, what's the government's next best step? Solution number 2 would be a partial gun control plan. Now this would make it harder for people to actually possess guns. We already have some of these laws in place. For instance, background checks among people who are looking to purchase firearms, as well as regulations on what type of firearms can be legally owned. Any additional laws would likely make it hard for hunters and gun enthusiasts to get the type of guns that they want or the type that they need for their sports. Unfortunately, this solution is also ineffective. Criminals are likely to just use the guns that come naturally to them. In fact, very, very few crimes in America are actually committed with illegal weapons. If a certain gun is made illegal, criminals will find the next best gun that they can get cheap or that they can get easily, and they're very unlikely to pursue the type of guns that are illegal. So now that we've looked at these two ineffective gun control solutions, let's look at the real solution to the cause, which would target the human nature to be violent and the human nature to be careless with firearms. The first part of the solution would be to implement firearm safety. Now, there are roughly one firearm per every U.S. citizen in the United States at this time. It's obviously necessary that gun owners are educated about their responsibilities of owning a gun, and that they teach their children the responsibility as well. And they teach them things like how to use a gun safely and the times that it's not right to even touch a gun. In addition, it's also important that we become less violent as a culture by lessening the amount of violent media we expose ourselves to. In 2004, Douglas, Gentle, and others found that kids who play video games on average get worse grades, fight more often, and overall view the world as a more hostile place. It's a parent's responsibility to make sure that their children are not viewing too much violent media, especially video games, and that they themselves are not consuming too much of this violent media as well. A third plan that we could implement not only as individuals, but as a culture, as a country, is harsher prison time and more death penalties. According to the U.S. Justice Department in 2006, 56% of violent felons convicted between 1990 and 2002 had prior conviction records. Our prison times are obviously not reforming our felons. And this means that violent people are allowed back on the streets instead of truly being reformed or being taken care of by the government, whose job it is to make sure we're safe. Now, this could be fixed by longer prison terms as well as a possible increase in death penalties. This is obviously a harsh way to deal with the problem, but the problem is real enough that the United States government needs to respond accordingly. Now, we've looked at the extent of gun violence towards children, and we've seen the ineffectiveness of gun control solutions. The only solution that I believe is left is to target the carelessness and the violence that's at the heart of our problem. If we're successful at doing this as individuals and as a nation, future generations can enjoy the freedom and the peace of mind that make America such a great nation today. Thank you.